Problem 21. The set where x is such that 2 times the absolute value of x minus 3 equals 4 contains which elements? First of all, there's a lot of wordy stuff going on in here, so I'm just going to help you get rid of the wordy stuff. I'm going to solve it an algebra way, and then I will solve it an non-algebra way as well. If I were solving it the algebra way, we would like to isolate the absolute value, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So I've got the absolute value of x minus 3 is equal to 2, and then we learned in algebra to set up two equations. My first equation would be x minus 3 equals 2. My second equation would be x minus 3 equals negative 2. So adding 3 to both sides, I'd get x equals 5, and adding 3 to both sides on this one, I'd get x equals 1. So my answer is going to be both 1 and 5. All right, so it's going to be choice C. Non-algebraically, I could just start plugging in solutions and see if they work. So I could actually put negative 1 in here and make sure I get the right answer and then find if negative 5 works or not. So I could go through each of these choices, plugging them in to see if they work. Number 22. After leaving a deposit in a savings account for a few years, the balance is now 1.25 times the original deposit. If the balance is now $300, what was the deposit? It looks like they've given us perfect information to set up an equation. So they said the balance is, so I'm going to put B equals 1.25 times the original deposit. All right, and then they tell me that the balance is now $300. So they tell me that 300 is equal to 1.5 times D, and they asked me for the deposit. So I would like to solve for D, so to get rid of times 1.25, I'm simply going to divide by 1.25, and when I do that, I will get $240, which is choice G. 23. A triangle ABC is isosceles with base angles B and C. If the measure of angle ABD is 100, what is the measure of angle A? So I want the angle here. Isosceles means that side AB and side AC have the same angle lengths. All right, so what I'm going to do to get that angle, since I know that this angle right here and this one right here are supplementary, they add up to 180, that this angle has to be 80. And then since this is an isosceles triangle, angle B and angle C are congruent, so this one is also 80. And then I know the three angles of a triangle add up to 180 degrees, so if I take 180 minus 80 plus 80, that will give me 180 minus 160. So the angle of measure A, the measure of angle A will be 20, which is option A. Number 24, if A equals 5 halves plus 2x and B equals x plus 2.1 minus 3 fifths, find the value for x for which A equals B. Well, if I want to find where A equals B, I'm basically just going to set those two equal to each other. So I'll have 5 halves plus 2x equals x plus 2.1 minus 3 fifths. And what I'm going to do at this step right here is I'm going to change everything to decimals since we do have a calculator. 5 halves is 2.5. Plus 2x equals x plus 2.1 minus 0.6. Okay, on the right side I'm going to combine like terms, so I'm going to have 2.5 plus 2x is equal to x. 2.1 minus 0.6 is going to be plus 1.5. And then solving for x, I'm going to subtract x from both sides, so I'll get 2.5 plus x is equal to 1.5. And then to finish it, we'll just subtract 2.5 from both sides. So I will get 1.5 minus 2.5 is going to give me negative 1. All right, what I could have done on that also, I could have taken the choices, plugged them in to see which one gives me the value where A is equal to B. All right, 25. What is the equation of the line with slope m equals negative 2/3 and y-intercept b equals 4? So I know I have y equals mx plus b. And that gives me y equals negative 2/3 x plus 4 because that's exactly what they told me. Now basically what we need to do, first of all, e does not work because it is not the same equation. Negative 1.5 and negative 2/3 are not the same. What we are going to do is try to get the x and the y on the same side because that's what all my other choices have. So I'm going to add 2/3 x to both sides. So I'll have 2/3 x plus y equals 4. And I notice none of these have fractions in them, so I'm going to clear the fraction by multiplying every one by 3. 3 times 2/3 will give me 6/3, which would just be 2x, plus 3 times y gives me 3y, and then 3 times 4 gives me 12. And if I look at which choice that would be, it is going to be choice C. Right, 26, which is always the value of 1/8 times the quantity 2x plus 11 plus 2x plus 11. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and just combine what I have inside. So I've got 1/8. If I combine like terms, 2x plus 2x will be 4x, and then plus 11 plus 11 is going to be 22. I notice their answers do not match mine. I do notice inside that I can factor out a 2, so I'm going to have 1/8, 2, and then if I factor out a 2, I'll have 2x plus 11, so I'm getting close to one of their answers. And then if I take 1/2 times 2 over 1, that would give me 2 over 8, which reduces to 1/4, so I'll have 1/4 times the quantity 2x plus 11, and that gives me answer J. 27, solve 2x squared plus 3x times x minus 4 minus 40 equals 3x plus 100 for x. All right, if you are totally lost on this problem, you could easily, especially since you have your calculator, you could type -7 in and 4 in and see if those are both answers. So you could actually just go through the choices and see which works. I'm going to actually work it algebraically because that's just kind of how I roll. Okay, we've got 2x squared. If I distribute that, I'm going to get plus 3x squared minus 12x minus 40 equals 3x plus 100. And then I'm going to combine like terms, so I'll get 5x squared minus 12x minus 40 equals 3x plus 100. I'm going to set this equal to 0, so I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides, and I'm going to subtract 100 from both sides. So now I have 5x squared minus 15x minus 140 equals 0. The next thing that I'm going to do is factor out a 5, because I noticed that 5 will go into all three parts. So I'll get x squared minus 3x minus 28 is equal to 0. I then notice that that trinomial will factor. It will factor into x minus 7 times x plus 4. So the two answers that will work for x using the zero product property will be x equals 7 and x equals -4, which is choice B. Right, 28. Which factorization is equivalent to the quadratic expression x squared minus 2x square root k plus k? I'm just going to start actually foiling these out to see which one works. So if I try f, if I FOIL it, x times x is x squared, and then I'll have plus square root kx plus square root kx plus the square root of k times the square root of k is k. That will give me x squared plus 2 square root of x kx plus k. So I notice that I'm very close to having the right answer. I'm just missing a minus sign. So I'm actually going to go to the choice that looks almost like that, but there's two minus signs. So I'm going to try k next. This will give me x squared minus x square root k minus x square root k plus k once again. And then these two combine to give me x squared minus 2x square root k plus k. And notice that's the answer. So my answer is going to be K. 29. If A quarters and C nickels are given to a clerk who returns B dimes and D pennies and change, what was the cost in cents of the item? So I notice in their answers they're using the value of the quarters and dimes and everything, so I'm going to as well. Okay, I give A quarters and C nickels to a clerk, so this is going to be 25A plus 5C. And then she's going to give me something back in change, so I'm going to subtract that from what I gave her. So I'm going to subtract B dimes, so 10B and 1D, because there's just one. Pennies are just worth a one. All right, and then from here I'm going to distribute. I'm going to get 25A plus 5C minus 10B minus 1D, and I think that answer is, just not in the same order, but it's right here, choice D. So there we go. Alrighty, number 30. Which of the following statements is true about the equation x squared minus 6x plus 5 is equal to 0? Then it gives me the roots are imaginary, the roots are irrational, the roots are real and negative, the roots are real and equal, the roots are real and unequal. So they keep talking about the word roots. Well, hopefully you remember that roots are just zeros of a function. It's just where the function is hitting the y-axis, or it's, excuse me, the x-axis. So I'm looking for the x-intercepts. So probably the best thing to do on this one would be to graph it. And if you graph it, you're going to get an answer that looks like this. And then if you look at where the graph touches the x-axis, it's at 5 and 1. So notice I was able to see where it touched in two places, so the roots are real, but they're not the same thing. So I'm going to choose choice K. If the roots were imaginary, that would mean we wouldn't see that graph touching the x-axis. If the roots were irrational, that would mean we would get either square roots or decimals as where they were touching. And the roots being real and negative, obviously we would have gotten negative answers. If they were equal, we would have gotten two things that were the same. So that's what we are looking for that problem.